Something I just learned. Evidently these 14-inch inner tubes are hard to come by, so that kind of explains why this one has so many patches on it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go ahead and patch this one. This was on a spare tire, and it has it didn't hold air anymore, and so you can see the car was parked for a long time and the spare tire rusted out quite a bit, and there's a lot of rust on the inside. And I had suspected that the spokes and the rust on the spokes had caused a leak. But you can see what I got going on here is I put a little vat together with some clear dishwashing fluid, just enough to make bubbles. And I inflated this maybe just a little too much, but the idea here is to get some pressure in there so that you can find the leak. This wouldn't hold air, but I didn't know what it was. So first thing you want to check when you're doing these pressure tests is the valve, because sometimes some dirt will get in there when you're airing it up or something, and it will get in there between the valve, and so you can throw a little water in there, and because there's dishwashing soap in there, it'll generate bubbles, and you can see that there's a little bubbles that are forming on that. So I'm going to clean out that valve. It's barely noticeable, but that's a leak in there. I don't know if you get really close. You can see that there's some bubbles that are forming in there. So the valve has some stuff in there that's causing it to have a leak. So we'll clean out the valve really good, make sure that it seats well, and if necessary, you can replace that valve pretty easily. They sell those. But then the other thing to do is to completely submerge the tire. Let me see if I can. There's a lot of sunlight here. So you want to completely submerge the tire and observe any bubbles. You could just use water and find the bubbles fine, but putting a little bit of dishwasher's fluid in there makes it a whole lot easier to find those bubbles. And you'll see I did find a leak already, so I'm cheating. But you'll see when the bubbles come up where the leak is. But you can notice all the places where I thought there was rust causing a problem are not a problem. And so we can clean that off. I'm not going to use any kind of acid or caustic cleaners to get that rust off. I'm just going to use an abrasive like a greenie here and scrub that off. But you continue all the way around until you either hear a hissing noise, because the water will make that air make a bit more of a hissing noise coming out, or if you notice bubbles coming up. Should be coming up on, here we go. You see those bubbles right there? There's a leak right in there. So that makes it real easy to find. Now the other thing is, it's like, okay, well, where's the leak, right? You can run your hand on it and it will make little wispy noises. Can you hear that? So our leak is right there. It's right there. There's a leak right there. Okay, so we'll throw another patch on that because these things are hard to find, and I'll continue the video once we start doing that patching process. All right, so the first thing you do on this is absolutely you want to confirm where the leak is. It's right there. And you want to pick the patch. Now, the thing about the patch sizes, this goofy kit that I purchased has called itself a 25-piece kit. Well, it has a lot of these little 1-inch, and it has these 2-inch, and then it has one really big one. So I'm going to use the 2-inch patch. Here you can see I'm going to use this 2-inch patch, and I'm going to orient this along the lateral line of the tire, so that as the patch stretches, it has more surface area. I think it'll make it a little bit stronger. So I'm going to use a 2-inch patch. So what that means is that I have to rough up a 2-inch section of the rubber. And what we're going to do on this is we're going to put some rubber cement in there. And that rubber cement, we're going to let it get dry up and get tacky. And then we're going to take off this blue tape. And then that will be a pristine surface. And we'll just be able to push that right down on there. And then we'll be golden. So let's move ahead and put that rubber cement in there. This thing comes with, you have to poke a hole in it to make it open up. But it comes with 2 of these. And you just want to spread that out nice and even. Over the whole distance of where you're going to put the patch. Actually, it's better to have it go a little bit beyond so you have some margin. But you want to keep track of where the hole is, so you want that dimension to be kind of similar to the patch size. All right. So we'll spread that out nice and even. And if you can see here, I'm avoiding this little rib in the center because I don't want to make a void. There we go. That should be good. Quick little backyard garage trick. So when you're taking these valves out, there's actually a tool. You see it has like a little fork on it. And you put it in there and it will loosen up the valve stem. You put it right in there and it just grabs both sides and it will come right out. There we go. Just like that, right? So if you don't have one of these, you don't want to spend the money to buy one, you just want to be able to solve a problem on the fly. If you have a small flat screwdriver, you can slide this in there. And if you just get on one side, you can turn it. And it will come out just the same. See how that works? I'm just on the one side and using that flat screwdriver to move this along. So just a little pro tip, or backyard garage tip, how to pull these babies out. And you can see where the fork screwdriver thing would go on there. You can just pull them babies out. Well, that's actually a broken one. I'll have to buy a new one anyway. So anyway, that's how you would get that out without the special tool. Alright, so for this next part, you want the air out of the tire so that you can lay it down flat. We're going to put some pressure, and you want to peel this blue part off the back of the patch. You don't want to touch that after the cover's off. You don't want to touch that. That's pristine and it's sticky, and that's what's going to adhere to the rubber cement. You can see the rubber cement here is it's dry. It's still a little bit tacky to touch, but it's dry, and it's I think you can see a little bubble there. But anyway, that's what this is going to adhere to. So let's go ahead and put this down. It's a two-hand job, so I'll take a picture afterwards. All right, you can see I've got that on there. I pressed it in. You might also notice that I've trimmed the corners off prior to putting it in there. I trimmed those corners off so that it didn't have any sharp edges. When this tire gets inflated, there's going to be the outside tire is going to interface with it when it gets expanded. And I didn't want to give that any place for it to rub against once we get it up in and get it inflated and everything. So one of the things that you want to do on this is once you get this in place, you want to roll it with some pressure. And I recommend using the back side of a screwdriver. You just use the knob there and you push it down. You want to squeeze it because you don't want any air, and you want a good compression between that rubber cement and the patch. And I'm going to let that cure for a while. I'm going to go have a lunch and a beer and come back and we'll throw some air in there. So while we're waiting on that, let's go over the valve stem. So if you recall, the valve that I pulled out of there was leaking, and I showed you another way to take it out using the screwdriver method. So anyway, you can get 4 of these at the AutoZone for about $2. You want to throw it in there. So, and the black seal is what's going to seal around this neck here. You put that baby in there, and off you go. Now, the proper tool for this job is a bit that looks like this, and you can put it into any standard, hex bit screwdriver. It's hard to do when you're looking through the camera. So you want to put that baby in there and just slide it in. You don't want to put a lot of torque. Okay, when you feel a little bit of resistance, turn about a quarter of a turn, back it off a little bit, and then tighten it again. And what that does is it makes sure that that little black part of the seal gets a really good seal. So let's let that sit for a while. We'll come back and we'll inflate it. All right, so put this in the tank here. Looked around. The patch that we made is sound, but there's still a leak. Look at that, right there. Turns out this was not a single leak, but a series of leaks. I didn't get all of it. Another leak right there, just beyond it. So if you have a tire that has a puncture in it, you're going to run the risk that that puncture is going to go pop, 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 pop. It's going to pop a couple of holes in there, and we just didn't catch this one. So I'm going to throw another patch on right next to this patch. Let's see if we can identify all the extents of the leaks, and we'll catch them all. Looks like this one's just right there. I don't know if you can see that little leak right there. I didn't catch that one on the first go around. All right, so let me demonstrate, however, that we have solved the problem with the valve stem. You see that doesn't leak at all anymore. There's absolutely no bubbles coming out of that. So replacing that valve stem solved that problem. But I'll go ahead and put this patch on here, and then we'll move forward on it, and I'll install this on the tire, just making sure. That's why you got to check and recheck to find every little spot where you have a defect. You find one and you fix it, it's not always the end of the problem. So, okay, moving forward. There you go, all patched up. We've replaced the valve stem, or the valve in the valve stem. We've patched one hole, rechecked it, found another hole, patched that, and it is sound and ready to go. Stay tuned for my next video. I will be showing how to install an inner tube and mount a tire in your own garage without having to take it to the tire shop. It's a little easier than you think.